Welcome to Heart in the Fight. My name is Daniel. This is my co-host Omar. Thank you for tuning in to our third and final live show of the year. This is our inaugural annual award show where we will be recognizing top performances and performers and fighters who continue to demonstrate their heart, win, lose, or draw. If we take a look at this year, 2020 will probably go down in history as one of the darkest periods in our lifetime. However, on the flip side of that, it was also the year the Streetbeefs skyrocketed to another dimension. Not to mention, it was the start of Heart in the Fight. But you'll hear a little bit about that later. This year, Streetbeefs was able to grow its brand, expanded its market to the 757 in Virginia. It went to another coast on the West Coast, went to Washington State, to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and in the near future, Arizona, and to now to the UK and Mexico City. With that, we were able to see more fighters, more outstanding performances, and leaders that emerged. It was an exciting year. Streetbeefs made it on SportsCenter and many other media outlets. As you probably heard from Scarface, there's going to be a number of different documentaries they're going to be showcasing about Streetbeefs. And so it's been quite a year for Streetbeefs in 2020. And so with that, we wanted to create a show where we can highlight some of the successes, but also key in on the top performers and the fighters who showed in and day out, whether that's through their training videos, whether that was them trying to lose weight for a fight or finding any kind of motivation to continue to fight, not only in the ring, but in their lives. And so with that honor, Omar and I want to put a show together where we can congratulate all the winners, congratulate all the fighters who put their lives on the line to test themselves. So with that, welcome to our 2020 Heart in the Fight Awards show. Hit the intro. So Omar, tell us a little bit about why this concept is so important to create an award show. What is the value in that?
Well, Daniel, I mean, for me, the importance is of being able to take a look back on a year. And as you mentioned at the top, right, this has been an extremely difficult year for many. And so to be sitting here where we're at today, right, and being able to look back on all of the fighters that were not only nominated, but they're going to be winners of the Heart in the Fight Awards. I mean, it's a tremendous accomplishment what these fighters and branch owners, right, the branch leaders were able to do in a year like 2020. And so the significance of a Heart in the Fight end of the year award show is really just an opportunity to celebrate everyone's achievements. And whether you were nominated or whether you won or not, that's the least of it, right? Like being able just to say that you got in the ring, that you got in between the haystacks, that you were able to throw down in one of these shows is a huge accomplishment. I mean, these are unique human beings that not everybody does what these men and women have done, right? And so I think for us, as you already mentioned, it's an important moment, right, at the end of the year to look back on that and just, enjoy what we've been able to witness. And so for me, that's the importance of it.
I agree. It certainly is really important, not only for fighters to be recognized for their hard work, but for fans and those who are watching to also celebrate their hard work. And so there is like an emergence that happens when you create an award show where you get to see viewers who cheer on their favorite fighters, to cheer on the people that they follow, and to see them get more success. And so you get to follow along in their journey. So I appreciate the opportunity to do it. And so when we pitched it to Scarface, he said, I love this idea. Let's do it. And so I'm glad that Scarface gave us the green light and we were able to move forward with this and got a lot of the fighters on board to want to participate in this. And so we're happy to be the ones who host this inaugural award show. And just know it's going to get better every single year, especially when we think about the growth of Street Beefs. So with that said, I think it's important to talk a little bit about the concept. And I'm going to use this. I'm pretty sure if you've seen any kind of sci-fi movie or any kind of comic book movie, have you ever seen like there's a scientist who has to explain all the mechanisms and everything that's in play so that you fully understand the context of the movie? And so we're going to quickly do that here, right? And so I think it's important for folks to understand, how do we come to these decisions? How do we come to these categories? And so we are going to quickly touch on those things. And so when we go through and award folks and award different fighters, you have an understanding on how do we come to this, selection. And so for the first one, let's talk about candidate selection.
Absolutely. So Daniel, candidate selection was to me probably the hardest portion of this award show. Why was it difficult? Because there were so many fights and fighters that we had to shuffle through and look through and consider, right, for the nomination of each of the categories that we'll be going over today. And so for us, it was extremely important that we did not leave any stone or leaf unturned, that we went branch to branch from the East Coast to the West Coast, right, looking at every single fight from the top of the year to the end of the year. And so we looked at videos, we put together our lists, a long list of candidates, and we placed them in the relevant categories that we'll be covering here today.
All right. And so with that, I think it's important when we talk about candidate selection. I know folks are probably going to say, did y'all choose the candidates? Right. And to be fair, we help create the list of candidates and fights and performances, but we brought on a committee of judges, right? Which I think is really important for people to understand that it was a collective effort. It was a community effort. And so when we talk about the judges, we selected judges that are actually part of your peers. They are the ones who help create and make up Street Beefs. And so we had a number of categories that we kind of created when selecting a judge. And so one of them was, we looked at the pillars of Street Beefs. And so we were looking at staff, mods, admins, branch leaders. And so we reached out to them and said, hey, you have an interesting vantage point from here, and we'll love for you to get your input on the selections. And then they got to choose. And another group we looked at was your contemporaries, so other Street Beefs fighters, whether that's current, former, or non-active fighters. And so we reached out to them to be part of judges, so they can weigh in on some of the selections and some of the performances, and so that we could get an accurate account of what's happening throughout the year. And we also looked at Street Beefs fans. And so those who have watched more than 20 fights and can name fighters and branches. And so they're not fighting like a lot of the fighters are. They're watching, they're observers. And so we wanted to bring them on as judges. And then lastly, one of the things that we were able to do, which I think was a huge accomplishment on our end, is that we were able to bring in an MMA agent to take a look at some of the footage and select. And it was great because before then, they had kind of heard of Street Beefs through the SportsCenter clip. But once they got to see a lot of the fights, I remember some of the commentary that the MMA agent was like, wow, they have some really good fighters. And so that was a really good thing to do, was to bring all these people, this committee of judges together to help us select the nominees, help us select the selection. And I think it's important also to note is that in the judges, we had double-digit judges. So it wasn't like 5 judges. We were in the double digits. And so it was a huge feat on their end because the lists were massive. Like we're talking about 20 to 30 fights that they had to kind of go through and navigate. And we made sure that they had links to them. And so they weren't just recalling off things off memory. They had to watch it for themselves and then make the selection. And so let's talk about the voting process. So once we selected the judges, we had them go through the first round, right? And the first round was narrowing the selection. And they had to choose their top 5 from every single category. And not only that, they were able to add fighters to the list that we didn't add, right? And so it was like, all right, we forgot to add this person. So they were adding in nominees. And so we created more space for those nominees to exist in the selection process. And then once we went through the first round, we went through a round of scoring. And so for those who got number 1, so if they were in the top 5, if they were chosen number 1, they got a particular score. If they were chosen number 5, they got a particular score. And so we added up all the scoring, which led us to the top 5. And then we went to a second round where the judges had to select their number 1 choice. So once they had to narrow it down to the top 5 and we added up all the scores and we got the top 5 in every single category, then they had to choose a number 1. And then when that was done, we had an amended round. And so that was because there were a number of events that happened like really close to the end of the voting process. We added in additional events and additional fights and performances to say, hey, this just happened. I know you already voted. Does this topple or does this change your vote after seeing this clip? And they had to weigh in that for themselves, and then they resubmitted their pick. And so it's important to understand that this was a thorough process. This isn't something that we kind of just walked along and we just closed our eyes and say, okay, this is the person that we wanted, or this is the performance we thought was the best. It was a very comprehensive process where we included judges, we included fans, we included many people to help us with this selection and to narrow down and choose the top performers. And so I want to end this section with this. I remember before Scarface moved, every single time, whenever I see him on a video and he's walking in the streets, y'all remember that every time Scarface was like walking in the streets and he was talking to his phone, I knew when I see the dim lights and he's walking in the streets and he's pacing back and forth, he's about to address some drama. Like it was clear every single time you knew, oh, he's addressing some drama right here. You didn't even have to listen to it, but you knew he was doing that. And so, what was that?
Is this a dim light moment right now?
Yeah, exactly. So just picture that. Just picture that, right? And so this is one of those moments. I'm going to address some drama right off the top. I think it's important for folks to understand is we know when we were both kind of creating and curating this list, there were certain fights and performances that I thought were going to move to the second round that just didn't get there. And I thought to myself, wow, why wasn't that the case? And I had to realize it was because I had a personal bias. I had a bias towards certain fighters. I had a bias towards certain positions or whether someone's a striker or someone's has a really good ground game. And so I had certain biases that were showing up in my own voting. And so we tried to eliminate that by bringing in more judges and so that we can cut some of the biases down. But understand that. It's really important to understand that we are all operating from our own biases. We all see the fights differently from our own vantage points, from our own experiences, even as a fighter, from what you like as a fighter. And so as we go through the selection, you might not agree with it, but understand, because we went through a very comprehensive process, we tried to minimize the bias, but bias still exists. So you might not have to agree with it, but I think it's important to note it's important to respect the process that was put in place. So with that, I'm done with my soapbox. I'm done walking the streets with the dim light. And so I appreciate y'all. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into our first category, Female Fighter of the Year. Break the video.
Forward. There you go.
Take it down.
Keep searching.
We got Gash in the blue corner. Down the middle.
We got Yaz all the way from South Carolina.
Good exchange. Good exchange. Come on,
Yaz. Circle.
And I know probably you were probably saying, I thought you said you chose the top 5, right? And we showed the top 4 performers. And so when we were actually going with the judges and we were trying to come up with names, we saw that, and I'm pretty sure a number of you can attest to that, that the females division is pretty small. But the good news is growing, right? And as you can see, the growth of the female division is pivotal. And so, Omar, give us some reasons why the female division is so important, and also look at the new prospects that are on the horizon of the female division and the growth and what that means for Streetbeefs. But before you do that, folks, I know you saw all the candidates. So please, in the chat, type in who you think will win this. Who do you think wins this? Right? And so we will, as you start typing them in, we will be sure to show them on the show.
Absolutely.
So go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, definitely drop your comments, drop your nominations, as Daniel has already said. Daniel, for me, it's simple, right? When you are a true mixed martial arts fan or combat sports fan, right, then you love it all. Whether it's a male fighter or female fighter, you love it all, right? Because true fans, not the casual, I'm not talking about the casuals, but the real fans appreciate the likes of legendary fighters like Amanda Nunes, right? Like Layla Ali, right? Like, I mean, Clarissa Shields. Like, we have been entertained and blessed with the type of skill that has been presented in the female fighting and out of women fighters in these different combat sports, whether it be mixed martial arts in the UFC or other, or even in boxing. And so to see female fighters, women identified fighters in Streetbeefs is tremendous. And yes, it is true that we do not have as many as the male fighters, but it's growing, as you already mentioned. So we have the newcomers in the West Coast, like Kickboxing Girl, who was really the trailblazer, bringing on Lisa, and also Fierce Honey, right? And so it's exciting to see that women are starting to find that Streetbeefs not only has a brotherhood, but it has a sisterhood as well, right? That there's a familyhood that's developed and there's a space for them to compete, to test themselves, right? As you mentioned in the top of the hour. And so, for me, this is, we wanted to lead off with this division because it's just the most exciting division, the category is the most exciting category, right? Going into 2021. There's so many question marks. And if you tuned into the presser, right, Daniel, you heard Kickboxing Girl, right? We talk about Kickboxing Girl traveling to fight Deuce and Deuce accepting that challenge. And so we don't know if that will happen, but we certainly are excited to tune in to see, will there in 2021 be a West Coast and East Coast women's fight that comes together? Who knows? But nonetheless, it's exciting, and we are excited. Right? We are excited to say that these are the nominees. And that, again, that the nominees that you've seen on the video were based on their activity in 2020. And so, I don't know, Daniel, do we have anybody in the polls making their comments?
Well, I saw a few. I saw the ones that said Deuce and Gash. And so it seems like those are the two primary ones that were jumping out from the chat. And so it's exciting. Like you said, the women's division, the females division is growing. And with that, we bring you. You ready? You ready to tell it, Omar? What's up, man? You ready or you not?
Listen, if you have not participated in the poll, please do so. But time is up. So for this year's 2020 Hard to Fight Women or Female Fight of the Year is, let them know what it is.
Hello. I want to thank you for acknowledging me on your show. And I want to thank Steve for running the scrapyard in the Pacific Northwest and bringing a better event after every single event. I also want to thank everyone who's ever made me a better fighter, the people I train with, coaches, people I fought, people that have given me just little advice, little insights at these events. True Grit and Arm and Hammer, Gumby as well, and Tiger Dragon, who I've been training with after our most recent fight together. When I look forward, all I can think is that I'm going to be going into 2021 more prepared for a fight than I have ever been before, with faster hands, more power, better technique, a lot more confidence. And I also want to acknowledge some people who I've not personally met, and all the other female fighters throughout Streetbeefs who exist in other chapters, especially Deuce, who has been recognized on the show as another nominee. She's a very excellent boxer in Virginia, and going into 2021, I'm always excited to see more fights from her. Yeah, that's I think that's everyone I wanted to really acknowledge.
Congratulations, Gash. We are super honored to be honoring you as Female Fighter of the Year. How does it feel to be receiving this honor?
I'm pretty excited. I'm a lot more excited than I thought I would be. It definitely feels very good. My parents are very happy for me, which is, and they're watching this right now. So, Mom and Dad.
Hi, Mom and Dad. So, Gash, let me ask you, 2020, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, has been a very difficult year for a lot of folks. Tell us, what was it about this year that, when you look back on 2020, how do you feel about your performances or the activity that you had in 2021? If you could just kind of put that in a nutshell, how would you describe this year for you?
I went into a lot of my fights in 2020 pretty naive about what it was going to be like. And I just have to be thankful that these people I went to go and meet, when I showed up to this first event in August, pretty sure it was my first event was in August, I was almost more uncertain just about the social circumstance. I was thinking, oh, what if Steve is like kind of a weirdo about like finding a matchup for me? But those things were totally unfounded, and I had a good, respectful matchup, and I've never had that that's just specific concern again fighting in the scrapyard after my first event, and it makes me excited going into 2021 with a much more mature fighting mentality.
So, Gash, there's a lot of comments popping up right now from our viewers. And, I have to ask you, because there's certainly folks that are excited to see particular matchups in 2021 from the female division. But I want to ask you directly, is there a female fighter that you are interested in fighting? Because, if folks haven't been paying attention, we know that Gash has only fought male fighters, right? And so who are yet to actually have a female fight. And so for 2021, who would you want as your first female opponent?
Right now, there really are not any women in the scrapyard division that I'm aware of.
In all
There-
divisions.
Well, yeah. So thinking more broadly, all divisions. You know, I think Deuce is a very scary opponent, and if I'm going into my next, I have another fight coming up in January, which will probably most likely be against another man. I'll think about touring a little bit and seeing if there's anyone interested. There's some female fighters on the West Coast now too, and there's some female fighters in Virginia. So maybe a little bit of a tour would be something in my future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's going to be phenomenal to have you on tour, to go out to the East Coast, and to fight some of the female combatants there. And I already know a matchup with you and Deuce is going to be fireworks.
She's very skilled, very technical. I look at her a lot for inspiration, to be honest. Although her fights haven't gotten like insane numbers, I really think they should, because you know, it's the technical fights sometimes get the most overlooked, because knockouts are very attractive to people. Like a quick round one knockout's very attractive to making a video more viral. So I just really like, and I personally like watching these technical fights more that kind of play out over the course of multiple rounds.
Well, Gash, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us today to accept your Female Fighter of the Year, your 2020 Female Fighter of the Year award. We wish you nothing but the best moving forward, and we look forward to your fights in 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that was fun. All right, being able to announce our first winner, and such a deserving winner at that, right? And so not saying that they weren't all deserving, but it's great to be able to start off the show awarding a female fighter, even recognizing all the female fighters who've been putting in work in a male-dominated space. I think that's always really important to know. All right, and so before we get into our next category, it's always important to talk, even before we get there. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
What you got?
So, you know, when we first started to promote the award show, I remember going to the comment section, and Joe Rogan has this thing where he says, never check the comment section. Never check the comment section, because you're always going to get negative feedback. But I like what Fire Chicken from Scrapyard does. He actually reads all the comments, and he says that he's always looking for the piece of gold that help him develop his brand, help him develop the yard, right? They can be constructive. And so I take that approach as well. So I'm reading all the comments, and I'm going through, and I remember seeing one particular comment that said, oh, are they trying to be a knockoff of this one particular show? There's one show that has network backing. And, you know, one of those things is like, I don't take offense to that, right? To me, it's a compliment to say that, hey, that our platform has developed enough to be able to be compared to a platform like that has a network backing, that has money pouring into it, lets us know that we're on the right trajectory. And so there are some similarities, like, yeah, we got a digital platform that we get to interview people, and we get to host press conferences and live events. Okay, yeah, that's similar. We got two personalities. Yes, very similar to that. We do it with style, very similar to that. But I want to center in on one thing that's different from us and from the kind of MMA journalist, is the very thing that I just mentioned. They're journalists. They went to colleges, they got degrees to become journalists, to be in this field, where you and I are actually community organizers. This is not where we started our career. I'm not saying that this is a career move for us, but we are community organizers at heart. And so some of you are probably, well, what are community organizers? I think it became very popular when former President Barack Obama was running to be a president. There was like, oh, he's a community organizer. And he was a community organizer for 3 years. Don't want to knock that off, like not wanted to say anything degrading towards that. But, you and I have been community organizers for more than a decade. And so what community organizers? So community organizers, what we do is we work with communities. Oftentimes they're marginalized communities to help them, to help empower them to create solutions for the historical and systemic issues that plague their communities, that continue to push them into marginalization. And so we help empower and coordinate folks and community members to come together to build power and to overcome these systems, overcome a lot of the policies that are in place that make it really difficult for them to move forward, and for them to build and to create economics for their own community. So we come from that. So we start with community first. That is always the center for us, is the community, where in journalism, that isn't the case at all. It's about reporting. And so I just want to make that quick distinction, because our goal here, right, is one of the goals is to unite, to bring together, to cultivate communities in it. And so that's actually where Omar and I met, was through community organizing.
Yeah, so a quick story on that, Daniel, right? We met almost 8 years ago, right, in a classroom. So this was in Long Beach, California at Jordan High School. So shout out to anybody watching who is from Long Beach or LA County or Jordan High School. And shout out to Mr. Lai, because it was Mr. Lai, Peter Lai, who invited us to his Male Academy classroom. And I remember walking in, and you were already there. You were there with your team, and you were in the back of the room. One of your colleagues, your teammates, was in the front presenting, and Daniel was in the back chilling, right? Like hair down, curls down, looking real smooth. And mysterious. And I came in and I was given an opportunity to speak to the young men, right? And why this story is so important is not only was this the first time that you and I knew of each other's existence and where eventually our friendship and our brotherhood developed, but the significance of this story is that this was here a classroom for young men who were either struggling academically or were just looking for a space, right, to belong to, a space to be able to find their voice, a space to be able to connect with other young men and to learn about things like mass incarceration, to talk about things like, intergenerational trauma, violence in the community, whether it be gang violence or otherwise, right? And so you and I had the opportunity to come in and to speak to these young men, to build relationships with these young men, to be part of this brotherhood, right? Where we got to deconstruct these ideas, that were, embedded into a lot of these young men's psyche around what masculinity looks like. And so all these things transpired now to today, to where we are so fortunate to be a part of the larger Streetbeefs community, where we are doing that very thing. We're continuing that brotherhood. We're continuing to talk about guns up, guns down, gloves up, right? Mm-hmm. Freudian slip there, right? And so this is part of the legacy that we want to leave, Daniel, right? When we talk about being community organizer, or whether it be talking about Harden the Fight, is this idea of brotherhood, sisterhood, familyhood. And so this is really the origin story, part of the origin story of Harden the Fight. But there's more.
Yes. And so after Omar and I connected after that meeting, and we found a particular love that we both love was combat sports. And so every time we saw each other, we would talk about combat sports. We will practice certain moves on each other, and we'll go watch fights. And then one day he gives me a call and he goes, "Hey man, what do you think about the ways that media is reporting on fighters? What do you think about the ways that media is not necessarily talking about some of the deeper issues that fighters go through?" And so we had an 2-hour chat about that. And, at that time, we weren't really thinking about creating a show or anything. It was just kind of a deeper discussion around how do we ensure that the conversation is more well-rounded? How do we ensure that folks are not leaving out the lives of people? Like, I think oftentimes people get construed. They just think of fighters as fighters, and we think of fighters as people with lives. That lives that impact their performances, that impact the way that they show up in the ring, and the way that they show up in their lives. And so we wanted to make sure that we were creating a conversation that was healthy, creating a conversation that was a little bit more complex, more comprehensive, so that we can understand all the different elements that fighters go through, all the conditions that they have to traverse in order to get to the ring. And then one day, I was mentoring one of the young men. We mentor a number of young men, and one of the young men was trying out boxing for the very first time to lose weight. And then one day he hit me up and said, "Hey man, I'm thinking about becoming a boxer." And I said, "Oh, that's great." And so as any mentor, we're always looking for opportunities to plug them into. And then that's when I learned that Streetbeefs was coming to the West Coast. And I was like, "Oh, here's an opportunity." And so I plugged him in with Tiny Tank, and Tiny Tank kind of took care of him. And, I corralled my brothers to take him to the event for the first inaugural event for the West Coast. He competed in that and came back and said, "Man, it was such an awesome event. It inspired me. Yes, I lost, but it taught me a valuable lesson about myself." And I would love to have that discussion. And so we said, "You know what?" I called Omar and I said, "Hey, let's create a show around this. Let's actually have these discussions, talk about fighters, their journeys, and so that not only fans are not just watching their fights, but they can connect with them." And so that's where kind of the origin story came from. A few days later, after our phone call with Omar, we had our first interview, and then it just kind of snowballed after that. We were getting interviews. And so I think it's important for folks to understand some of the origin stories, so you understand when we create the products and we create the content, it's always with community in mind. It's always with familyhood in mind, brotherhood, sisterhood, and that we're doing everything that we can to promote it, everything that we can to keep it together. So with that, you don't want to get too long-winded. So we want to bring our second category. What category is that?
Well, Daniel, the next category is for the 2020 Hard in the Fight Submission of the Year.
Well, let's bring up the...
Fighting out of Hobart, Indiana. It's my time. Welcome to the Reckless here. Let's go.
Cross face hard. Gas.
Simple, right? Fighting out of Delaware, 5'9".
There you go. That's it.
Maluko, represent Miami, Florida, but fighting out of Indian Head, Maryland.
The Wanderer, fighting out of Columbus, Indiana.
Reckless Rico, fighting out of Hobart, Indiana. I'm the champ. It's my time.
And so let me preface this. When you look at the video, you don't really see you see the end result of a submission, but you actually don't see the setup. And so I want to encourage all our fans to actually watch those fights, because in those fights, you see that they are setting this up from the very beginning. This isn't by accident. This isn't something they just kind of stumbled upon and they said, "Oh, here's the neck. Let me choke it." Right? They were setting it up from the very beginning. They were positioning themselves. They were moving. They were tripping. They were hip tossing to bring their opponent to this position so they can set up either whether there was a triangle. If you look at all these fights, there were a number of sub attempts, right? And so I think it's really important for folks to understand is it's really difficult to see how they set this up, but watch the fights, because that's how the judges were able to come up with this selection. Was they saw the entire fight, they saw the setup, they saw what happened, what transpired in the match, and they said, okay, with all these elements in mind, I chose these as a top 5, and Reckless Rico ended up being on 2 of them, right? And so I thought at some point people were probably like, "Oh, is that a repeat?" Right? And it's like, no, it just so happened that a lot of his victories come from subs, and he's also a very active fighter, and judges really like those 2 subs. And so we have Rico versus Carlos, Symbol Rice versus Hard as Stone, Wanderer versus Ice Pick, Maluko versus the Sore Loser, that one's actually interesting because if you look at the actual fight, that's not his fight name. And so I don't know if that's a malicious jab towards him, But and then you got Rico versus Space Shifter. So, and so with that, we would love to bring up this year's award winner.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey brothers, how y'all doing today?
Good, man. How do you feel about winning the award?
Man, to win an award like this, it is nothing but honor because there are so many people and especially so many guys that fight within the yard themselves that I feel like or more worthy than myself. So to win it is such a monumental thing. Like the fight against Spaceship, the fight against Carlos Connors and those nominees. Those guys were very tough opponents, very skilled people to go against, and to fight them at the times I was fighting them when I was coming up and when I was first winning the champion was a really great fighter within itself. And to win the award out of so many great nominees, I mean, guys like Moku, Slumbo Rice, and all the other fighters that were mentioned, those guys could have easily won it as well. But winning this award, it means a lot to me because it shows the versatility of my game and such things that I do. And I'm just really honored and happy to be a part of it because, like I said, anybody can win. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's so many great guys and great athletes that come in and through the yard. And even after I come, there'll be guys, after me that will probably win the award with even better submissions. And I look forward to that, what I'm saying? And I'll never be a hater. I always support the next man. So I'm really honored and happy that that I got nominated for this award. And I just really appreciate it a lot.
And for those who they didn't watch the interview with us earlier, can you tell us like how many grappling tournaments have you been to? How many matches? Because I always have to tell folks, like, if you are learning grappling for the first time, you do not want to go against Rico. Right?
Yeah.
He is the wrong person to test your grappling skills if you have not competed at a high level. And so please, grace us with some of your credentials because I think it's really important for folks to understand that you've been putting in work for a very long time. This isn't something you just picked up in the last 2 months.
Yeah, so I have been grappling since 2013. So from 2013 to 2020, I have competed in over at least 50, 60 tournaments. I have won over 200 matches with majority of them being gold medals. And then like they have an app where you can just see how many of your, out of your matches or wins by submission. And I have it's like a crazy number. I have like 82 or 83% of most of my wins are by sub. So like when it comes to jiu-jitsu or grappling and wrestling in general, that's where a lot of my accolades and credentials are from. So yes, sir. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. So I'm just curious. Given those numbers, and given that experience, is there looking forward into 2021? Is there another grappler, whether it be on the East Coast or the West Coast, in Streetbeefs that you feel can come for this award next year? They could take this prestigious day in 2021.
There are I would say maybe 3 guys that come to mind right off the bat. I say Beach, because Beach, we fight kind of very similar, you know what I mean? I think I strike a little bit more than Beach, most of the time. But Beach is a guy who I could see one of those guys coming up getting a very, good submission, compared to his standard rear naked choke. Viking, man, the Viking, he has a lot of crazy submissions. I think he has a couple of arm bars, triangle chokes. He's very versatile. And Slumbo Rice himself, man, like I believe, like I think he's 3 or 4-0, and all his wins are by submission. So I see those guys maybe like winning it, within like the next year or two. Those guys who I see as like the top guys who have a very good jiu-jitsu and very good submission skills.
And in all likelihood, you're probably going to face them at some point in the future. Well, we know you're going to face Beach soon.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And so how exciting are you about, going against guys who have a really high level of jiu-jitsu?
Going against guys who have really high level jiu-jitsu, it really excites me because in my mind, like as a fighter, as a competitor, I want to test them there and see just how good they are. I want to see if his grappling is better than mine. I want to see if how good he extends his hips on an arm bar. If he could, you know, finish me or put me to sleep with a rear naked choke, vice versa. I mean, that challenge within me when I'm going against another grappler really intrigues me because I know that's where, like, you know, where I shine at. You know what I mean? That's like my bread and butter. You know, worst come to worst. So when to go against another guy who has that similar skill set or possesses the same skill set, it really is. It really intrigues me because I get so like I get so excited because I'm just ready to test myself against it.
Awesome. Well, do you have anyone that you would like to thank? Any of your supporters, any of your crew that helped you prepare for your battles?
Yeah. So first, foremost, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. Hard you guys helped me with the t-shirt apparel, man. That's, you know, I think everybody and their mom out here just like bought a shirt, and then people were sending me like receipts or like they were sending me like pictures and their shirts. So just a big shout out to that, and then shout out to Any Animal Podcast, one of the guys that like sponsored me, helped me on the trips. Shout out to my man Nick Wake from he owns a restaurant in Greensbury, Maryland, Tinchi. Very good restaurant. If you guys like, you know, Southern food or American restaurant food, super good. Also, shout out to my man Nathan Walker, who helped me get out to Virginia the last time when I was low on funds. He's a real estate agent. He owns Listing Leaders, Select Families, and then shout out to my new sponsor, Streetbeefs, who does like little parodies and stuff and things like that on Instagram. So if you guys into like parodies and, you know, funny skits and videos, be sure to check that out. And another shout out goes to, you know, my family, my friends. Big shout out to my brother Midnight Warrior, Emmanuel Pugh. He always helps me get ready. We because we're so diverse in our skill sets, you know, with the striking and the grappling, we always help each other. Just what they say, iron sharpens iron. So just a shout out to all those people that helped me along the way, and then shout out to the people that I'm gonna meet in the future or that I'll meet tomorrow or whenever it is. I just really happy for all the love and support that I get, because, you know, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? Win, lose, or draw, you know, I just go out there and I just do my thing, love of the sport, and I'm gonna just keep doing it till I can't no more.
Well, congrats, Reckless Rico. Thank you for being on the show, and to much more success, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. And so with that, I want to quickly, I know that we talked a little bit about an origin story. So let's just talk about the mission of Heart in the Fight. And we're going to be really quick and brief with this. And so one, you know, we have a set of values. And one of the first values that we have is unity. And so we're always looking to promote unity across branches, across fighters. And some of the fighters we got in touch with will probably tell you the same about us. We're always looking for ways to connect folks, to safeguard the health and prosperity of all fighters, but also the fans. And so it's to create this much larger familyhood with the content that we create. Value number 2.
Community. So community, as I already mentioned, as we mentioned at the top, Heart in the Fight sees itself as part of the larger Streetbeefs community, right? And we look to always uphold those values of brotherhood, sisterhood, and familyhood. We understand that shared values, collective values, is what will ensure that this community continues to grow.
So value number 3, education. And so you know from some of the breakdowns that I do, particular fights and fighters, is that I'm always looking to educate folks, right? Especially for fans themselves, is to see the brilliance of these fighters. They're not just looking at YouTube videos and just throwing up random combinations. These fighters are training. They're out there, they're making personal investments in themselves to refine their game. And so my job is to find those minute details and then share with everyone else so that they're being educated on the brilliance, and so that you can become a fan of all these fighters, right? And that's one of the things that we do at Heart in the Fight, is to create education campaigns. Value number 4.
Value number 4. Value number 4 is entertainment. We understand, Daniel, that people only tune in if they're entertained by what we bring them, right? By the content that we create. And so entertainment is important. We love entertainment, which is part of the reason why we are MMA and combat sport fans, right? And so you, the fans, the viewers, the subscribers, the supporters, the folks that are joining us as part of this ride, we value that you all feel entertained, right? By the content that we continue to create with you in mind. And so it is super, super important. It's super critical that you all continue to comment. Give us those comments. Talk about who we remind you of, who we don't remind you of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Your comments help us understand how we are doing as a platform to help uplift and push the Street Beefs movement forward. And so we hope to, and we plan to continue to entertain you all with the content that we bring you.
Yeah. And with that, we come to our next category, the KO of the year. Boy, we have
Shinigami fighting out of Lancaster, California, representing Force 360 Martial Arts and the Lab BJJ. Shout out to my girl Rachel.
What a big shout out. Streetbeefs GoPro. That company.
I'm a Canadian. I'm flying out of Los Angeles, California.
Well, I'm gonna hammer discipline at all times.
What up? Let's get it, bro.
Straight. Come on,
And so now that you know all the nominees and all the finalists, make sure you put who you think wins in the chat. Right? And one of the things that we learn in watching all these videos of people being KO'd is oftentimes it's really the way that their opponent falls, right? The way that their opponent responds and reacts oftentimes gets the highest praise. Because there's like theatrics to it. There's like drama that gets infused in the video. Even if it's a simple jab or if it's a simple combination, but the way that the opponent responds to it, like adds more flavor to the video. It adds like more drama. And so it's always fun to, and it's always fun to watch those videos and to see, well, how are people ranking these according to how people are falling? Right? And so that's certainly one of the things that we saw when looking at the KO videos was that people were certainly looking at their opponents' responses and reactions to a lot of those hits. And so I'm looking at the comments. I see Let's Go Shinny. Who else are we seeing? Okay, Iraqi Assassin.
Iraqi.
Shinigami.
Daniel, this is what we were talking about at the top of the show, the bias, right? We seen folks from shouting out their boy Iraqi Assassin, and then we got our family from the West Coast shouting out their boy from the West Coast and Shinigami. But that is the beauty. That is the beauty, Daniel, of how we set this up with the amount of judges that we set up and with the criteria that was in place. Is to try to eliminate as much bias as possible. But as you mentioned, we can't eliminate all bias. And the KO of the year is such an important award, right? Because this is probably the one thing that why people tune in the most. They want to see that KO, that beautiful, flawless victory. I mean, I don't know, Daniel. This is exciting.
You know, I agree. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people tune into the Mike Tyson fight. Right? They want to see KOs. They want to see bodies dropping. And it is a beautiful thing, but certainly it's also a brutal thing as well. But we can appreciate the art behind it. We can appreciate the setups. And especially when you look at these KOs, you can see that these were really contested wars between two combatants who are willing to go to war. And at that point, when you are set up and ready to go, like you have to be able to defend yourself. And so sometimes someone hits you in a sweet spot and lights go out. All right. And so with that, I certainly, before we go into, you know what, just bring up the winner. How about that?
Yo, what's up?
Gentlemen, congratulations. And so I think it's important for the folks to understand what happened. So when the judges were going through the selection process, you two kept coming up on top. It was like neck and neck. It was like one or two. And so people love your KOs. They love the way you set it up. And it was a head kick and the theatrics to the way that the person fell also, I think, added to it. And so we came to a draw in the end, and we realized, you know what, instead of trying to just select a winner, why not just give the platform to both of them? Allow them to both be celebrated for such an important KO, such an important feat, something that, you know, that lives for a very long time, that like it has a high shelf life, what they say, right? And so with that, we want to give you a platform, and we will allow Armin Hammer to go first and do your recognition speech. Go ahead, brother.
First of all, thank you, Hard in the Fight, for this platform, and for creating a community for that recognizes the fighters and stuff like that. Also, I'd like to just give a shout out to my opponent, True Grit. He's a warrior, man, and we went in there and we both knew what we signed up for, but you know, it just went my way. I would like to say that I think a lot of the other KO, I think Shinigami had a really great KO. It happened in like 14 seconds. So, you know, shout out to that. Iraqi Assassin, that's you actually, when you set up your KO, the dude was coming at you with like crazy hands. So I think that, you know, when I knocked out my opponent, it was like in a little lull after a feint. So, you know, it's all everyone has their opinions, and I'm just gonna stay humble. I'd like to thank my family and friends, obviously brother, mom, dad, my cousin June, shout out Fight Team 206, you know, check that out on YouTube. My best friend's Kit Lee, he actually taught me that kick. So, you know, shout out to him. Joe Stafford helped me out. He's a great training partner. I love that guy. He cornered me actually, and he helped me set that kick as well. Krishar Williams, I love you. That's all I gotta say. AMC, Pancration Kickboxing, Minnesota Martial Arts Academy, and Warrior Strength Martial Arts, Kriai, Belton Lubis. Thank you for the help and taking me under your wing. Last but not least, Fire Chicken and Scarface. Thank you for creating this organization to allow us to fight in this quarantine era that we live in. Everything else is closed, and that being said, this is a great organization, I think, and it's crazy that Mexico City and the UK are setting it up too. So I think that's dope. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I gotta say. You know, just have your heart in the fight, I guess. Sounding corny, but whatever.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. I got no audio.
Okay, you're on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened there. I couldn't hear anybody.
All right, yeah, no worries. Go ahead, man. Take the floor.
Well, first of all, man, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been handling all this and just going through with this. It means a lot, obviously, us the fighters, you know, to have some love shown from, you know, people that we may not, you know, mingle with, you know what I'm saying? Like, just see all the time. So I appreciate y'all do this for us, man. That's definitely love. And I wanted to thank my my team, obviously, you know what I mean? They got me to where I'm at right now. Esteban, Lord Esteban, Scarface, you know, Corey, the Wolverine, Danny Shaw here in neutral corner. You know, I'm in neutral corner right now. I don't know if you guys can see it, man. Just getting some work. You know, called up Corey and Daniel. They let me in. So definitely they helped me get to where I'm at right now and helped me secure that knockout. So definitely shout out to all of them, man. And obviously Scarface, you know, he's the one that puts it on for everybody. So definitely the biggest shout out to him, man. And I'm sorry, man, I'm not really good with words. So like, I don't know what else to say other than just being grateful and appreciating everything, man.
Word. Well, congrats again to both of you. It's such a huge accomplishment, very competitive as well, right? There was tons of knockouts that people had to go through, but it just kept coming back to you two. And so we just want to congratulate y'all. And before we even move forward, we would love to know what is next for both of y'all. Like, what does 2021 look like?
For me, I actually have a fight coming up on the 23rd. I don't think I'm allowed to say who the opponent is yet. But
Well, it's already been announced.
Has it been announced?
Yeah, it has been announced. Yeah, Fire Chicken said it in his live.
Oh, for real? Yeah, I guess supposed to be fighting Reckless Rico. So we'll see what that's like.
Look at that. Hey.
Yeah. He's a good grappler and he's very humble. I like the guy, man. It's a weird sport where we gotta fight. We fight people that we probably could be friends with, you know. It's just it is what it is. But I just wanna my last fight, that was actually my first MMA fight, when I fought when I got that knockout. And there was like no grappling whatsoever. So I want to see how I fare in that. I trained at a really good MMA gym. With I don't want to name drop. Yeah, let's just not even go there. But I feel confident. I just want to see, you know, when it comes down to it, how I prepare, how I fare and stuff like that. So, you know, good luck to everyone. But shit, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough fight, and we look forward to it. Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Iraqi Assassin? What does next year look like for you?
It's gonna be I'm hoping that you know what I have in mind kind of just happens, you know what I mean? And if it does, then it will be a banger. I am, like I said, again, I am so much better now, like than my last fight. If you think that I did semi-okay or even put on some kind of a show, I am much better. I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm light, I feel better. And that's because of my team got me ready, you know what I'm saying? So I can't say too much on who I want to fight just yet, but I'm telling you, it's going to be good. Just keep watching.
Word. Well, we appreciate it, gentlemen. Thanks. Congratulations again for being KO of the year.
Thank you. Thank you, Hun.
Much love.
All right. It was great to have them both on there, right? And not having to kind of be selecting one over the other, because I felt like both of those KOs were huge. And I love the setup and it. Yeah, and so I'm glad that we were able to kind of make the decision to say, you know what, let's just honor and celebrate both their feats and their accomplishments.
Warriors, Daniel. I mean, just two warriors who come out every single time to bang, and you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, let's talk a little bit about the challenges that we kind of had to go through in 2020 in Heart in the Fight. Right? And one of those things was when we first started. Get this, y'all. We started late August when we started this Heart in the Fight. And so we were unknown. We've been in the community, but we weren't necessarily fully engaging with the fighters. Events already been transpiring. And so we were reaching out to fighters, and it was hard to gain their trust, wanting to be on the show. And so sometimes we got ghosted. There was moments where we would get a fighter to confirm, and then the day of, we would hear nothing from them. And then, or even they would agree, but never give us a date. They would say, oh, no, I'll come on the show. Don't worry. And never give us a date. And so, I mean, I don't blame them. We were new. They didn't know who we were. And so that was certainly one of the challenges that I remember this year, was having to combat that always. And another one was once we got going and we got rolling, we started getting the fighters in, we started getting the interviews, was that capacity became an issue. And so there was too many interviews that we had put in the bank, and that we were trying to roll out as things were happening in real time. And so it was hard to keep kind of, to keep up with that stuff. It was really difficult for us. And so we were trying to figure out, well, how do we ensure that we're more effective, more efficient with our time? How do we get faster turnaround times on some of the content that we're creating? And we just didn't have an infrastructure that was fully developed for what we see now. However, as you see, we've made some adjustments, and we're now righting the ship, and we're able to produce stuff live. We're able to produce a number of things that allow us to reach the masses. So tell us how we're reaching the masses.
I mean, well, let's let's save some of those highlights for a little bit later, but we certainly are doing it. I mean, Daniel, I just want to shout out you, right? Like, you are a grinder, you're a hustler, and you make things happen. And, I'm forever grateful for you, brother. I mean, we've been reflecting everybody. If there's an award, I want to give you your flowers right now. But there were other challenges, right, Daniel? Like, I mean, I think with that, right, with trying to create content and constantly be bringing fresh new content to the people, it was difficult when you're just starting out, because you have these stories, right, like a Hell on Wheels, a Challenge Accepted, right, which are in the bank and they'll be coming soon. Yeah. You have stories like just so many, right, whether it be Rico or all these profiles that we have done. But when you do not have the subscribers or the followers, right, it's difficult, right, to get these stories in front of people, right, because they're such powerful and inspiring stories that we want everybody to see this. And so a challenge is not having those subscribers to be able to share these powerful stories that have been so inspirational and so moving to us and to those, and I'm sure to the folks who have watched it. And so I think, a challenge that we're going to continue to face, and that we know that we'll overcome in 2021, is getting the viewership to be able to, get these stories in front of.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, think about the most powerful story you heard in person that changed your life, or the most powerful movie scene, whether that was Rocky, whether that's any other fight movie, or any particular movie that had a scene where there was a monologue or a dialogue that transpired that just changed, like it just switched, something switched, changed your life and inspired you to drive. Imagine if there was never a platform for that to exist. Imagine if that was never pumped out to the masses. You would imagine that it would have some kind of, that the impact or even your life trajectory would be different, because you didn't have that opportunity to see it, to be able to purview into someone else's life, for that to speak life into you, for you to resonate deeply with the message that was given to you through the movie or through the person that's in front of you. And so very similarly, when we're trying to develop our subscribers, it isn't really just for us, right? The subscriber base is really important for the stories that we're telling.
That's right. The
stories of these fighters, because those are the stories that are going to inspire you to become better, to fight for everything in your life. I think that's the most important message that we're always trying to drill in, is that fighters have stories, and they have stories that you can learn from, you're going to be inspired by. And that's what we want to do, is create a platform and get as much subscribers as possible so that they can see it. They can be inspired by those things. And so if you're watching and you still haven't subscribed to us, come on, brother. Come on, sister. I need y'all to subscribe, to share our content, and so that people can see these stories. They can connect with you, and they can become lifelong fans and supporters.
That's right. I don't know how you stayed focused through that whole thing when there was a debate going on around who has the best beard, but that's it.
Yeah, we're gonna say Omar. Omar has the best beard. Yeah, it was really difficult. I was getting distracted. I was like, all right, I see the debate between me and you with the beard. Omar is nice. It's nice and big.
Listen, Daniel, let's go into another debate, which is the next category, okay? And the next category is Fight of the Year, right? Fight of the Year. So, Daniel, I don't know how we want to roll this out.
Just play the video.
Question.
Yeah, how do you select the fight of the year from those finalists? It's really difficult. I see that Moose said Dirty Devil versus Karma was a good one. Absolutely. Like those, if you watch those fights, I can only imagine what that felt like watching them live. But when you watch them on YouTube, when you watch the tape, these combatants are hungry. They're going after it. And so it's really difficult to choose a winner out of all of them because every one of them dug deep, right? Like we always say in our outros, you dig deep and you fight for it. And that's what they did. Every single one of them, whether you were new to the yard or you've been a veteran into the yard or you were going from yard to yard, these fights, they inspired you. They reminded you why you watch fighting in the first place, right? To remind you of the good old, we are going to fight this out. All right, we're going to go to battle. And oftentimes when you're battling someone, you're not necessarily battling your opponent. You're battling yourself. Like that is the biggest challenge. Most of the fighters will say, like, I am battling myself in there. I'm battling my doubt. I'm battling my conditioning. I'm battling whether I want to continue with this.
That's right.
And to see that these combatants are willing to push through this is amazing and certainly inspiring.
Absolutely, Daniel. I mean, let's hear it in the polls, man. We would love to see what folks who are watching think about the candidates and other fights. I mean, there were so many fights, Daniel, to choose from that could have easily made this list, this very short list. But without further ado, I think let's just give the people what they want, Daniel. They want to know who is the 2020 Hard in the Fight of the year. Let's give it to him.
Woo! Man. It's crazy.
You won 2 awards, man. And so this is fight of the year. I think that was an insane battle. And so before we even get to a discussion, we would love for you to just kind of tell us your thoughts around this award, around this fight, and then we'll come back to have a much more deeper conversation.
For sure, man. I mean, to get this award, fight of the year for this year, I feel like Shinigami versus Street Brand in the first fight, that was probably more epic than my fight with, Red Reaper, in my opinion, you know what I mean? But, to get this award, I have so many great nominees and so many great fights, and even fights that aren't even listed on here. There was so many people that just went to war. And for me, fighting there on Streetbeefs in the West Coast in the very first event, all the first fights, I think I fought like second or third fight, because I think the first fight was I think Lil Diesel and another guy. I forget it. Excuse me.
Darkness,
yeah. And I think I fought like right after him. You know what I'm saying? And so and just the whole setup, fighting the Cali for the first time, being out there, fighting Red Reaper, and then that was like my first time going up to another weight class. It was just such a historical moment to be a part of that fight and to be a fight with him, because I couldn't have asked for a better dance partner. And like I was testing in ways I had never been tested before on my Streetbeefs run up until that point I fought him, and I'm just really humble and grateful, because after that fight, you see in my next like 3-4 fights, I just improved so much dramatically in that fight. Like I went back to the gym, I asked my coach, like, what can I work on? How can I be better? What can I do to improve? Because I'm like obsessed when it comes to things like that. Like, why did I get hit so much? Why couldn't I guillotine him in the first round? There was so many things I wanted to work on and learn. And then having that crazy back and forth dog style war with him just really opened my mind and just helped me change my game. And to be honest, Red Reaper helped me improve essentially for me to become the fighter I am now. That just improved so much since that fight 3-4 fights ago, and I'm just really honored to be in consideration, to be nominated, to be a part of the fight of the year. It's just super crazy, and it was such a great fight.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out really quick for folks watching and for folks who weren't at Streetbeefs West Coast 1 is there's a couple things, right? I mean, one, for this fight, this was an MMA match. So there was so much happening both on the feet and on the ground that made this fight so special, right? But one of the other things, the variables, if you will, that folks, who weren't present there might have not known is that there was actual heat wave, right? So you all were fighting in some brutal heat. and you could tell that it had an impact. And so, I mean, I wanted to ask you directly, how did the heat actually impact your performance that day?
Yeah, because so normally, obviously when I'm fighting, the main OG Street Beast, the weather is no more than $80, lowest $30 if we're fighting in like the cold weather. But out there in Cali, it was about, I can't exaggerate to make this up. It was almost like 120 degrees. It was just so hot that day in San Bernardino, and the heat. I knew the heat was gonna be impacting a problem when I started warming up. When I started warming up with my with one of my friends that was coaching me, we're hitting pads right, and he's like, "Man, Rico, you don't look too good." And I'm just like, "Ah, nah, I got it. This ain't nothing, And I was just like, "Man, this is crazy." Like I sweat normally when I'm warming up and things like that, but man, I was like just like dripping, like I'm sweating out through my shirt, my pants. I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be a rough one." I'm like, I told him, I was like, "If I don't get him in the first round, this is gonna be a war." And that's what it was. I tried to get a guillotine first off the bat. That didn't work, and then we just ended up brawling it out for like the next 3 rounds, and it was just crazy. I feel like people don't understand when you fight in different places, as far as like the altitude, the weather, it just really plays a part in how you fight. Like you fight in the heat, right? You're gonna get gas quicker. Your conditioning might not be as great as it normally is. If you fight in the cold, your heart rate is dropping. You know what I'm saying? You don't have that body, so even your body heat doesn't really warm you up that much, especially if you're fighting in such a low cold weather. So different environments and different altitudes just really plays a factor in how you fight.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know when I've heard the Canadian talk about what it was like being there. I've heard a number of people talk about, like 619 was talking about, like folks are passing out in the first hour, and because it was so hot. And so think about that. Like think about the time y'all started. You didn't start in the middle of the day. Where the sun was already fully out. It was like you were starting towards in the morning and it was already scorching. And so as someone like you who's going into it and it's really boiling hot and you're seeing people pass out, doesn't that discourage you?
I mean, I didn't get discouraged because I knew it was going to be hot, but not that hot, obviously. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing these guys pass out. Everybody's like falling out. So in my mind, I'm like, man, I just gotta believe in myself. I gotta believe in my condition. I gotta believe in my strength, my preparation up until this point, despite the odds being stacked against me, not in my favor. Just like, man, I just gotta keep going. Even watching other people, get tired or the heat would just get into them. In my mind, I'm just thinking like, I'm really willing to die right here, right now. So I'm just gonna fight to the end. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, 2 things are gonna happen. Either he's gonna knock me out or I'm gonna knock him out, or vice versa. You know what I mean? We just gonna go to war.
I mean, I think Bushido Zed was the one who said it in the comments, or it might have been Tiny Tank. Sorry if I got that wrong real quick. But I think the comment, and there he is right there, Bushido Zed.
How's it going?
I think you said it, Bushido, that that was really the epitome when we talk about when Scarface say Satan's backyard. Like these West Coast one was Satan's backyard. Like you cannot get any closer, right? I mean, listen, y'all. When we look at, as fans of MMA or boxing, and we see these fights on television, these folks are fighting in air-conditioned arena. I mean, it's temperature control. But Streetbeefs, there is no temperature control, right? There is no temperature control. I mean, we are talking about the extreme of the extreme weathers. And to me, this is why we call our platform Pardon the Fight. Because, Reckless Rico, you in that fight, you had to dig deep and fight 3 brutal rounds. Was it 3 rounds or 4 rounds? It was 3 brutal rounds, right? Of some hard-nosed, just war, a war with a very game opponent in Red Reaper. And so, again, this is why we call this show Pardon the Fight, but also why this is the 2020 Pardon the Fight of the Year. And with that, I mean, Bushido Zed, tell us a little bit about this fight. What was the significance for you and Tiny Tank in putting this fight together with Reckless Rico and Red Reaper?
Well, man, it was it really set the tone for the rest of the fights, I think. And for us to have this, I think it was the second fight of the day, and it just was wow. These guys, they really went out there and they put it all out on the line for everyone to watch, and the crowd was really into it. and the heat was beating on us. And that heat, man, it was not only an extra challenge for the fighters, but for all the staff, and I reffed all day, and I had to take multiple breaks, water breaks, and it was just, there's so many things that could have went wrong. But there were some legends born that day. Shinigami, in detail, we all know that fight, but Rico and Reaper really set the tone for the rest of the day. And not only that, but for the rest of Streetbeefs West Coast. It was such an honor to have a big name East Coaster come in on our first event, and it was surreal. And Tank will tell you too, man. It was just one of those magical days that just kind of fell together and everything worked out. So it's truly a blessing.
Absolutely. And so I want to congratulate both, because it's not only, Reckless Rico's award, but also goes to the fight promoters, the people who put the fight together. And so congrats to the West Coast branch for putting that fight together. It's certainly legendary. People will remember this fight, even so much so because it happened kind of in the middle of the year. And then now when you compare it to all the other fights that happened since then, so many other events, people are still saying this is the fight that changed it all for them. And so thank you all for coming on, and congratulations for being Fight of the Year.
Thank you guys so much. Love what you guys do.
Thank you. All right. Man, it's great to have them both on because that was a war. And it's great to be able to talk about what that war was like, the conditions of that war, and what led to ultimately a legendary fight. So with that, let's talk a little bit about some of the highlights that Heart in a Fight that we endured. And so one of the things certainly was that we were able to increase some of the capacity. So we brought on a new team member, Tunde. And so some of you probably saw him on some of the interviews, and he's the one controlling a lot of the show in the background. So if you see stuff popping in and our screens moving, that's Tunde. That's all Tunde. And so we appreciate our growth and the team and Tunde for doing what he's doing, especially on social media. He's helping us all make this platform bigger for the entire community.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, oftentimes they see, or most of the time they see you and I on here, right? But it's really Tunde is our unsung hero. We couldn't do what we do or grow at the rate that we are growing without this team, right? Without folks like Tunde who are really making it happen behind the scenes. So shout out to you, Tunde. Salute. And in addition to that, right, Daniel, I think this marks our third live show for Heart in the Fight in 2020. The last couple of months have been a grind, man. It's been a grind to be able to bring the people 3 live shows, starting with the inaugural Wall of Fame ceremony that happened just a few weeks back. And then after that, right, we had the first ever coast to coast, East Coast and West Coast, between the West Coast branch and pound for pound press conference. It got real spicy and real heated, right? I mean, that was an exciting one. If you're watching right now, and you have not seen that press conference, I'm telling you, you want to go back and watch that, because it was some classic trash talking, classic banter going on in that one. So now, this is our third live, the inaugural Heart in the Fight end of the year award show. I mean, it's been a heck of a year, Daniel.
Absolutely. And not only that, we were able to develop some partnerships with the West Coast branch, also with Cornflake and the Pound for Pound, also being able to partner with Scarface on some of these live events. And so that's been huge. That's been a huge highlight for us, being able to go from being ghosted, people not knowing who we are, to now having partnerships with these really key figures in the community. And the second highlight I want to bring up is the apparel partnerships that we have with Shinigami and Reckless Rico, right? Because we know that merch is important. People want to, they want to support. And some of that is like rocking your shirt, rocking your apparel as you fight, right? And it was great to have these kind of partnerships. It solidified, how do we move forward in some of these engagements? And so We'll talk a little bit about that at a later show where we talk about what does it look like to partner with us and kind of the tiers of partnership and sponsorship. But it's been a blessing to do that. And not only that, we're looking forward to the 2021 potential partnerships that we have our eyes on and that we'll be connecting soon around. So certainly look up, keep subscribing so that you can see some of the new content and partnerships that we're developing in the next few months. So with that, I think when we first announced that this was going to be a award show, man, I think a lot of folks were going back and forth debating about who is the male fighter of the year. It seemed like that's probably the most contested category we had. Outside of knockout and fight of the year, people really want to know who is the man holding it down. Right? Who is this person who's being so dominant that we get to award them for their excellence throughout the year? So what are your thoughts about the male fighter of the year, Omar?
Listen, I mean, there are so many, and the list was long, right? From coast to coast, from all four branches. But I think the candidates are exciting. I think the fans are going to like this list. I think that is going to be hard to argue. I certainly have my choices that excited me. But without further ado, let's roll the video.
Like, how do you select from that list? That is really, really difficult.
Well, that's the beauty of it, Daniel. That's why we didn't have to select. That's why we let the judges to select.
And, one of the things that we made sure when we provided this list and curated this list was that we were adding stats. And so we're looking at how many fights that they had throughout the year, what was the frequency, what is their finishing rate. And so we were going through a number of lists, a number of different statistics and stats and data that judges had to wade through all that and had to figure out, well, how do I make my selection, right? And it was hard. It was hard because there were so many people on this list and trying to narrow it down to, well, it narrowed down to 6 because 2 people actually tied. And so again, with the Iraqi assassin and Arm & Hammer, we decided, you know what, we're just not going to exit one person out, just put them both on the list. And so that's how we ended up with top 6, but that's a legendary list, as it was just said.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to understand is that some of the other criteria that people were looking at was how many yards are people fighting in. And so when you look at the Canadian was fighting every single yard. The only yard he hasn't fought in is pound for pound. And I heard that he's making arrangements to make it there. That's what I heard. I don't know, but that's what I hear. Now, but it's hard. It's difficult. But there was a number of things that people had to look at, and especially when I think about Cornflake, man, come on. If there was another category, I think Cornflake falls under like male role model of the year. How about that? How about that?
I love that. Yeah.
And so, so it was hard to decide.
Yeah, I mean, that's one exciting thing for 2020, Daniel, that we were not going to get into now, but there's so many other categories that we could have certainly developed, because there's just so many great folks doing so many great things. But with that, I don't know, should we announce? Is there anything else to say about the male fight of the year before we make this announcement?
No, I think that people are looking for it. They're waiting for it. And so hold up. Before we go into this, just know that what comes after that is the biggest Heart Award, which is our biggest award. But the second biggest award is Male Fighter of the Year. And that's a huge accomplishment. So let's just bring up the winner.
Let's do it.
Yo, what up, guys? What up? Just want to say it's a huge honor to be selected as the male athlete. I think that's awesome. I was up against a lot of good people. I'm so honored. My boy Rico, Cornflake, all those guys are savages. Want to thank the man up top. You know, the most important person to me, blesses me every day. I want to thank all the media, Hard to Fight, for showcasing us, giving us more a bigger spotlight to showcase ourselves. Thank the fans. Thank you guys, because without y'all, we ain't doing it.
Absolutely.
Well said.
And yeah, the fans are a huge, important part of making this happen. Right. And I remember when some of the fans who voted on this, like, they were set on making sure that you were the male fighter of the year. And oftentimes when we talk to casual fans of Street Beefs, your name comes up. It's very memorable, especially when you looked at, did you see the meme where it was Nate Robinson versus, yeah. And then it said, and then they showed a picture with you versus Viking, and they were like, this is the fight I'm gonna tell them to remember that fight.
Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah, so what do you think about that? Like, we're talking about millions of people saw that, right? And so I think that just goes to talk about some of the, like, how you have to overcome a lot of the hurdles and challenges. I love, especially when you look at the intro, it's like 5 foot savage. I love that. Right?
Oh,
because there is like a lot of huge disparities between like who you're fighting against. They're like taller, lengthier, but you find ways to win.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate like your breakdown of my fighting style. I think you hit it right on the head. For me, man, it is what it is. Something I've always grown up with, but I use it to my advantage. Like, I try to create a style that I feel like works well for me, is entertaining, and utilizes my attributes. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like, everybody's got something they got to work on. Everybody has something they got to overcome. So that's just my thing.
So, Baby Hulk, you are the champ. I mean, what's next for you in 2020? I mean, what are you looking forward to accomplishing that you have not yet accomplished in 2021?
For like my first year in the sport, it was awesome. Like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. Like, I went viral. I won a title and everything. So everything else is just building from here. More awards, hopefully more titles, more good fights, and just entertaining the crowds and people who watch.
Yeah, I love how in the comments people are trying to set up fights.
I didn't see it. Who was saying it?
Yeah, folks are wondering when you and Rico are coming to the West Coast. I think that's what people really want to know. You're coming to the West Coast, or you're going to Pound for Pound, or you're going to Scrapyard. Folks want to know when you're going to go on this fight tour.
Man, like I've been in contacts with people. I would love to fight on the West Coast. I think it's awesome. I love what they do over there. I love the whole vibe. And, that'd be a great reason to go get some In-N-Out burger. I've never got that. So, killing two birds with one stone on that. So that would be great. And yeah, man, I would absolutely love it if we can trying to get some support going, some sponsors, to make the trip a little bit more viable. But yeah, your boy definitely want to travel and fight.
Listen, Baby Hulk, if you make it to the West Coast, I will sponsor that first double and some animal style fries. All right, I got you. Baby Hope, before we let you go, you know, we talked about what's next for you in 2021, but can you tell us, like, how would you describe 2020 as a year for you?
That's a great question. Just like everybody else, I'm sure like this crazy year has tried everyone, made you probably reschedule some things, look at yourself in a different way and really adjust. And this year has shown me like I can adjust really well. I work hard and, you know, I set my mind to these goals and I accomplish them. So it was a good year for me, man. So blessed. Like I'd say that no matter everything that goes on, I am 1000% more blessed than, you know, I deserve to be. It was great, man. Like I like that people, you know, really support your boy and had some good fights. So 2020 was good. It was a good beginner year, but we're just gonna skyrocket from here.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. Congratulations on the award for being the Male Fighter of the Year.
Thank you, guys. Thank all the media for showcasing us, because, you know, the more people who put it out there, the more views who gets. Like, you never know who could get in contact with us. So thank you and everybody that works on the product.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. Baby Hulk, Male Fighter of the Year.
I love
All
Baby
right.
Hulk.
Yeah, love Baby Hulk.
Listen, Daniel, so Baby Hulk and all the all the winners so far have talked about what's next for them in 2021. Let me ask you, Daniel, what is next for Harden to Fight in 2021?
I think one is to create more partnerships, right, with some of the branch leaders, some of the other fighters, right? And I think what I'm looking forward to is be able to telling their stories. Or we have to understand the impact of all stories, the way that they resonate with us deeply. Like when you listen to someone's story, especially when you hear about some of the things that they had to overcome, like, man, that's inspiring to hear. It's inspiring and it motivates you to do the exact same thing. And so I'm looking forward to creating more profiles, more breakdowns, and so that we can get a much larger viewership on these fighters, right? And so that they can be sponsored to go to different branches and fight, right? And so that's certainly one of the things that I'm looking forward to with Harden to Fight, is looking for ways to create mobility for fighters, looking for ways to continue to build their brands so that they can they can gain success, but also make it to the next level, because we know when they get there, we all get there.
That's right.
You know, so it's important for them to get there. So go ahead, Omar.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just saying, like, you know, the Harden to Fight platform has been known for telling stories of profiling fighters. Obviously, people love the breakdowns. I mean, that is certainly one of the cornerstones of Harden to Fight, is being able to break down fights in ways that maybe folks have not been able to see before. But man, we gave it to them. We started off with profiles and breakdowns, right, Daniel? And then we hit them with the Wall of Fame ceremony, right? And then we hit them with the press conference, the Coast to Coast press conference. And then now we're hitting them with the award show. And we are not stopping there, Daniel. We have some other surprises up our sleeves, do we not? We have some other surprises up our sleeves. And so for those of you who have been following us and tuning in, we want to honor and just say thank you, because we want to continue to deliver quality content and more surprises. And for those of you that are just tuning in, go back and check out what we've done in 2020, but stay tuned, because 2021 is going to be even bigger. So I'm excited for the surprises we got for them, Daniel.
Absolutely. So make sure you're subscribing, you're sharing our content, so you'll be the first one notified when we make these special announcements, because we're only getting bigger and we're only doing more groundbreaking things. And so continue to tune in, y'all. Continue to support. All right. With that, it brings us to the most prestigious award and recognition that we can offer, but also for the Streetbeefs community. Be able to identify these fighters who continue to show up every single day, even in midst of doubt, even when things are hard, they still show up, right? They're able to demonstrate their heart, win, lose, or draw. You can see it and the ways that they carry themselves. You can see it in some of the personal videos they post. And it's always our pleasure to be around them, to be able to highlight their stories, because they are inspirational. They're inspirational to us, but also to the fight community. And so do you have anything else before we bring on the nominees and folks can see who the finalists are?
No, just that, I think in the coming years, Daniel, we really want to spend a lot of time and be intentional about the selection process and the nomination process for the Harden the Fight Award. To us, Harden the Fight is not some corny or like cliche thing. It truly is a message, right, to all of us, right? That when, we know if never before that 2020 has demonstrated that life can get challenging, right? And that when it does, it is how we sort of respond to those challenges, how we dig deep, how we find the resiliency within us, how we become resourceful, and all of that connects back to just the heart, right? The heart that it takes to be able to push through these challenges. And so for us, it is the coveted award. It is the award that means the most, because you might not be the best striker. You might not be the best submission artist. You might not be, the male or female fighter of the year. But to say that you have the most heart says a lot. It says that you're fearless, that you're courageous, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to come out on top, right? And to bring other folks with you. It's not only about you, but it's who you surround yourself with and who you choose to sort of support along with you in this journey. And so anyway, with that, we can keep going on and on and on about the coveted Harden the Fight Award and the big for the most part. But why don't we just show them the video of the nominees for 2020 Most Harden the Fight Most Heart Award.
Fighting out of neutral corner boxing, bringing hellfire and brimstone. Dedicating this fight to his dad, Ed Meissen. Rest in peace, Dad! This whooping's for you, baby! Yeah! Woo! Right, here we go! Let's go! That's right! Uppercut! There! Put him in that corner. Oh, yeah! Punch his ass! Yeah, punch his ass! What I tell you?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am back, and you know why I'm here. Dennis the Menace. This man don't got no respect for himself, and he damn sure don't got no respect for me. You put family in it, this shit get personal. Let's get it. I'm ready to die! Street beef! Street beef!
All you guys, love you. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the Streetbeefs people. Let's do it.
Everybody thinks they want something until they come and fight me, you know what I mean? I'm gonna beat everybody.
Hey y'all know who this is. This is your man Hell on Wheels. Y'all know I always got something to say, but first and foremost, let me holler at my little girl Adrian. Adrian, enjoy your birthday next week. The day you asked me to be your dad, one of the best days of my life, sweetheart. I love you for that. Now for the 20 million of y'all that wanted to share a 20-second clip and rag on me, bro, I'm a stand-up comedian. My people just don't stand up. It's culturally biased. We sit down. So if you want to tell jokes, two of my legs don't work, my third one does, ladies, holler at me. Let's get that money!
There you go. Ooh. There you go. Keep walking, baby. No.
Hey, accept your challenges. If you need help, I'm right here. I'm right here.
That's moving. That's moving. You can see it in their intros. You can see it in their fights. You can see it in their message to the audience that there's something deep in them, that it kind of engulfs you as a fan and engulfs you as a fighter to feel like, you know what, like I just got to support them at all cost. They are, I think they fully represent the heart in every single fight. So with that, you want to bring on who is the finalist, who wins? What do you think, Omar? There we go. Demon Monsoon.
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for this award. I'm usually talkative, but I'm a loss for words. Thank you to you guys, for everyone who nominated me. I gotta thank my coaches. Thank the guy who named me Demon Monsoon, Danny Shaw. Big shout out to Sunshine and her son Jacob. Shout out to those two. They are the best. And of course, Corey Willash, Ashley, the whole crew at Neutral Corner, Christopher Wilmore, Omar, Esteban, King Leo, my roommate Savage, aka Thomas, who is just, man, it's simply the best. All these guys are the best. Reckless Rico again. And Icy Mike, Demon Boys Jr., Nathan, and Amy, who also are part of Demon Boys Jr., the whole crew. And I gotta say, Karen and Mark, who always help with all the fights, and my number one fan. She is my big. You can't talk about Demon Monsoon without my mom, Demon Mama, Sandy Mysick. Shout out to my mom. Love you, Mom. And to everybody who has supported me, you guys, I'm blown away when you all told me, and I had to keep my mouth quiet about this. And of course, I do this for Jacob. This goes to everybody. Hell on Wheels, Baby Hulk, Reckless Rico. Those guys are my boys. I love them. And everybody that's been there with me and through this journey. Like I said, it takes an army to kind of help the demon. And I got the best army in the world. And training 7 days a week is even better because I get to do it with all my friends. So, ew, man. I'm speechless for once.
You gotta love your mom chiming in here, right? Your mom watching, and she's cheering you on as you're giving your speech. I mean, that is so heart moving. And what are going through your thoughts?
I haven't, just so you guys know, I haven't been able to see my mom in person because of COVID. And we did a virtual Christmas this year. And it was really tough on me. This year was really tough because of, we moved and all this. And when you guys told me I was winning this, and you're like, dude, and I didn't know who I was nominated with, and all those guys are absolutely the best. I know all of them, and I love them to death. I'm just, it brings me to tears because how much you guys have supported me, everyone has, and everybody around me during everything. When I'm having bad days, and trust me, there are days where you're like, please let him hit a bag. And then there's the moments when you see me and Daniel D. Shaw, when he's the first person in the cage. He's the first person after I fight every fight. He's the one that does my hair, gives me the bear hug. And right after that, the next person that messages me is Sunshine, my other big sister. And Ashley who's recording, will yell, "Your mom's watching! Your mom's watching!" And it's like, yes. She gets the phone call after. But like I said, when I see everybody come in with me, I don't get to see the intros until after, because I'm so focused on who I'm fighting. And when I see the interest and Daniel message talking about my dad, I mean, he's a hero to me and my mom, and just having those kids that I coach and everybody I work with who are there for me. It's when I fought Killer Kyle, everyone said it was everyone against Killer Kyle, and I said no, we were all in it together. And I always tell people, I don't have an army. I got like an entire nation going against somebody. So
I would love for you to talk about your relationship with Coach Shaw, because like you said, he's the one that introduces you. He is your ultimate hype man. So he's the person who comes in first. And normally when you're done with the fight, you're the first person going to him for a hug right after. And so I would love for you to talk about that relationship and what he means to you.
I'm going to try not to cry. I'm going to try not to cry with Bang Time. Oh, terrible. He is my right-hand man. When I talk about I like to say he's I'm Brock Lesnar, he's Paul Heyman. What he does every time, and this is the behind the scenes, he'll do my hair, he'll get my hair ready, and then he'll match me up. He says, okay, go sit in the van, go sit in the truck. I'll sit in the truck, and then he'll come and he says, let's go. There's Corey there, Corey Willash, one of my other coaches. But me and Bang Time, he puts the mask on me, he says, let's go. I don't remember anything. From the moment he puts that mask on me, Demon's activated. Demon forgets everything. And to have that, this is his mask. This when I'm not wearing it, it sits on my bedpost. And then it comes with me. When he introduced that against Zach Hardman, he told me, we're bringing this mask. I'm like, what? And he put it on me. And I'm like, and to have that bond, I mean, there are times people have watched us. He's doing hand motions. Nobody understands what's going on, but we're in sync. If he tells me throw a straight, I'm throwing a straight. If he tells me throw a hook, I'm throwing a hook. If he says, Jeff, you're not sparring this week, you're getting ready for your fight, I listen to every word he says. So he and I, it's being named after him. Dude, you can't ask for anything but the best.
Coach O, the man behind Bang Time, the voice behind a lot of the fights. Can you tell us a little bit about why is Demon Monsoon so deserving for this award?
His heart, man. He's just got so much heart and drive. I mean, he's unbelievable, man. I mean, he's crying, he's almost making me cry. He's just unbelievable, man. He does everything. He's a coach's dream. I mean, he is the best student. I mean, he does everything you tell him to do in practice, in the fights. I mean, he's just amazing, man. I could sit here for days and days and talk about all the great things that he does and how he inspires me to be a great coach, and how he inspires everybody around him. He's amazing, man.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about his presence in Street Beefs is phenomenal, right? Like everyone knows who Demon Monsoon is. He's like everyone's fan, like everyone's favorite. And so I would love for you to talk about, well, what does he mean for the rest of the Street Beefs community?
Oh, man, everybody at Street Beefs. He's an inspiration to everybody at Street Beefs. Me, Chris, Corey, everybody at Neutral Corner, everybody at Street Beefs. I mean, the Demon Monsoon is just such an inspiration, man. He fights with all of his heart every time he fights. I mean, when I tell him to go demon mode, I mean, he just goes demon mode, man. He breathes serious fire, man. He's an awesome individual. Like I said, I could sit here for days and days and talk about how much great things he does and how much he means to everybody.
Let me ask you this, Coach Shaw. It's an honor to have you on the show. This is Omar. It's an honor to have you on the show. So tell us, what do you see for Demon Monsoon in 2021?
I see him obviously to continue keep winning. What we'd like to do is challenge for that, that 205-pound heavyweight, light heavyweight, cruiserweight street beef title. So, that's our goal. That is our goal, but we want to just keep winning, the biggest thing is just continue winning and continue moving forward, and and giving off them McRibs, of course. But just continue doing what he's doing, inspiring people. I mean, because he's an inspiration to so many people, man.
So, Demon Monsoon, last words to you, man.
All I can say is, when you got that dude in your corner, and this is a known fact. I literally had somebody sit there and watch every Street Beefs fight he has done. Your winning percentage is about 99.8%. It's a known fact. If he's coaching you, if he's cornering you, you listen to the man. And when I say, I have an older brother. I love my brother. Ed's cool. Eddie. Me and D knows that joke. But I have a bond with that man, and him and Corey, we're the brothers. They know about the picture. There's a picture of the three of us. My second amateur fight, they cornered me. And somebody took a picture of the three of us together. And
What an awesome picture.
It's my favorite. Most of my pictures on Facebook is me and D and me and Corey and Daniel. And to have somebody like that every day in, day out, when you're having a rough day, because it's just hard, you're having a hard day, he's right there with you. He's like, dude, he'll spend literally 5 minutes listening to me, and then he's like, all right, get in with King Leon. Okay. And then he pushes you, and Leon's pushing you. And it's like, okay, D's, I'm going. Let's go, D. Keep going. Or if we're sparring, he goes, Jeff, you're going to spar Corey. Okay. He's like, that's the kind of bond that I trust D with my life. I have said that over and over. There's a bond. I moved down here. I told my mom, I'm moving to Virginia. See ya. And we're now 2 years into it. We're going to be 2 years. April 5th is when he took over my first Street Beefs fight. And since then, we did something we've never done in the history of Street Beefs. And I can say he and I went 16-0 in 2020, all-time record. And it's because of him. And then you guys letting me share about autism awareness, sharing about, no matter how your brain's messed up, you can do it. The one fight you guys showed with Berserker, there was a young man holding the flag. That's my boy, Icy Mike. And the last fight, which was a guy who was 250 pounds, we did that for Jacob, Sunshine's son, because he's autistic. And knowing that I have all these people having my back, that no matter what, I'm going to be fine. My mom has said it. She's glad I moved to Virginia because of who's all with me. That's why. So I owe a lot to that man and to you guys, to everybody.
D Monsoon, we appreciate your words. I do want to respectfully reframe something you said. There is nothing wrong with your mind, my man. There is nothing wrong with your mind. And anybody out there who is living with, who is neurodiverse and has other ways of thinking, there's none. That's a beautiful thing, and we need more minds like that, in my opinion. So there's nothing wrong with that. As a father of someone who's neurally diverse, this giving you this award, honoring you with this award means a lot to the Heart and the Fight community and to everybody out there who's watching. And so thank you so much. Thank you, Coach Shaw, for all the work.
Yes, sir, man.
We appreciate y'all. We can't wait to see what comes up. This title challenge for the 205 belt. We look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Biggest Heart Award, Demon Monsoon. That was an awesome interview, man. It was very touching to have Coach Shaw agree to participate. It was awesome. It's big.
Agreed.
So I appreciate that conversation. I even appreciate you bringing that up. There's nothing wrong with his mind. Absolutely not. All right. And so we can respect that diversity and welcome and honor it.
That's right.
All right. So now that everyone else has given out their shout outs, how about it's our time? So who do you want to shout out first?
Oh, man. I want to start with our families, Daniel. I want to start with my partner, my wife, my queen, and my 10-year-old son who give me the opportunity to do what I love, which is to talk about street beefs, fighting, to connect with you, to continue our brotherhood, and with Tunde. This cannot be done without them. We've heard that from so many of the fighters who accepted their awards today, that none of what we do can be done without that family. And so I want to give a shout out to my family for supporting this vision, this dream of ours. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, the same here. I certainly want to shout out my wife. I want to shout out my son. They certainly give me the space to do it. They give me the time to be able to record, to connect with other fighters, and to be in this community, and they support it. And so I really appreciate my wife. She's been a supporter from day one. We call her the executive producer. We call her EP. Right? And she actually came up with the name, Heart in the Fight. And so
I want to give a shout out to the EP. If you're listening, I appreciate you. I know Daniel works around the clock on this platform. I want to give you a special shout out, EP. Much love and respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she was pushing. I was coming up with some other names, and she was like, "No, this is the name." And Omar agreed with it, and so it was 2-on-1, and so this is the name.
For the record, I'm always going to agree with EP. No problem, right?
Word. We also want to shout out Scarface for allowing us to facilitate this platform, right? And so when we first thought about this platform, we reached out to Scarface, and we got in contact with him, and he said, "Hey, you have the green light with me. I understand why you're trying to do it." And he pretty much helped us connect to all the branch leaders. And so we reached out to Cornflake, we reached out to the West Coast, Scrapyard, Sapphire Chicken, Tiny Tank, Bashudo. And so we got in touch with them, and they also showed a lot of love. And so we appreciate them as well. Like, they are family. And I can't wait to continue to build with them. And so we appreciate their leadership and all the staff and all the folks who work with them to create this platform, to create this community, create these families. And so, it's great to see it flourish the way that it is, because it's those folks who are really putting in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to, we know that the branch leaders, right? The ones that you already mentioned, and that everybody knows oftentimes gets a lot of the recognition, the credit, but Sunshine, we know that is behind the scenes doing so much of the work. And so we want to for sure give a special shout out to Sunshine, and we hope to have her on the show in 2021.
Yeah. And also Esteban, right? Doing all the editing, right? And so those videos don't get to your YouTube in front of your eyes without Esteban. And so we certainly want to give credit there as well, and shout him out for all the work that he's been doing and continues to do for Street Beefs.
And Savage Island. We can't forget about Savage Island. Savage Island is watching. We got to have you on the show 2021 as well.
Yeah. If you're looking for a bodyguard, if you're looking for anyone to put the smack down, you got to bring that man on. Right? He will set the record straight. If you are tripping out at these events, just know he got your back. He got you covered. He will straighten all that out. And we also want to thank all the fighters that we got in contact with, the ones who we were able to profile, those who are on the press conferences, were on our live shows. We appreciate the support from them, but also we just appreciate the opportunity to bond with them, to really connect. And so we appreciate a lot of those fighters. You know who you are. There's just too many to announce right now, but just know we appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. All the connections you've made, all the contact and the communications that we've had over this time. And yeah, go ahead.
Sponsors, to our sponsor, right? We don't have many.
So if you are a sponsor,
we don't have
to sponsor something.
But we do want to give a special shout out to Matt Dodge of Dodge Sports, who has supported us along this journey, and both not only on participating on the show and dropping some gems, but also has contributed graciously contributed financially as well. So we want to thank anyone, like all the folks who have purchased shirts. We heard Reckless Rico talk about friends and family of his who have purchased the Reckless Rico shirt, the Heart of Fight Reckless Rico shirt. All those ways of supporting mean the world to us and will continue to help us grow this platform. No donation, no contribution is too small or too big.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, all right, we want to shout out the Heart in the Fight community, those who have liked our videos, those who have subscribed, who have shared our content. We want to thank you. You know, we don't exist. We don't have this platform. We don't have this show without your continued support, without all the things, all the kind words you've shared with us. And so you just want to thank you because you help this exist. You help us spread the message, help us get these stories out so that we can continue to connect and change the world.
That's right.
And anything else? Any other shout outs?
Man, shout out to you, Daniel. Like I already said it, but I can't say it enough, man. I want to give you your roses while we're still here and breathing. Just shout out to you, man. This is, you know, a vision that we had that is so close to our heart, right? Just based on how we grew up, the experiences growing up. You know, you and I both are brothers, and we have brothers who haven't had the same privileges as we did. You know, I guess we could say, right? Who have maybe experienced a little bit tougher times than you and I have. And a lot of what we do is not only for our families, but for those brothers, right, and friends and homies, right, who continue to find themselves in this fight, but continue to demonstrate heart. And so, you know, you put in the labor that you put in to continue to be able to tell these stories. And I'm just so thankful for this brotherhood that I have with you, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I mean, likewise, I appreciate you jumping on board and willing to be part of the journey, right? This journey that we're all part of at the moment. And so I appreciate you, your confidence, you and Tunde, and your confidence and wanting to jump on board and be part of the team, be part of the squad. So we appreciate that. And I also want to shout out, as you said, brothers. I want to shout out to my other brothers who actually do some, you know, who also help us out, right? Some of the testing, some of the get the word out, Chris and Jonathan. So we appreciate you for what you've done so far. And yeah, and to all the other brothers who are assisting, right? And so we know that there's family members who are assisting. And so we appreciate that. And with that, you know, continue to like our stuff, continue to subscribe, share, and be sure to sponsor if you can. Until then, till we see you next year, right? This is our last year. This is our last event to the next year. And so till we see you next year, make sure you dig deep and double down on your own commitments to your life.